Up only.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Up only.
Hello and welcome to Up Only TV. I'm Ledger here with you today. We got a great panel of folks. Before we get to it, you know where we're going first. It's straight to Blockfolio. Go to uponly.tv/Blockfolio. Try a trade on Blockfolio today. You can trade directly from one asset to the other. It is a fantastic experience. Zero trading fees, and of course you get the same features you've known and loved since 2014 for tracking your portfolio. Once again, uponly.tv/Blockfolio. Now let's get to the show. Cobie, hello.
Hey mate, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am. I'm not so bad. I'm all right. I'm getting a bit of Miami FOMO. Are you going tomorrow?
I'll be there tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So hope I get to see some folks there.
Is it? Is there like special parties that you're going to that are different from the one that Bob Laxative's at?
I'm pretty sure me and Bob Laxative will not be partaking in the same types of activities.
Yeah, I mean, if your wife's watching, we can let's say that now. Let's make sure that that's what she believes. We got some people with us. Matty, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
I think your like guest announcement got like some of the most like love and attention that I've ever seen from a guest announcement. It was that weird Photoshop thing.
Right. Yeah.
But welcome, Jack Sicarious.
Yeah.
Is it pronounced Sicarious? Is that right?
He doesn't know.
You know what? I kind of made up the word myself, so that's the first time I've heard it. But yeah, I go by Jack. That works.
Welcome to the show. And Duncan, Flood Capital, how you doing?
Good, yeah. Happy to be here.
So for anyone listening through audio only and can't see, maybe not like can't see the Twitter names and stuff, can you all give a little quick intro into like who you are, how you ended up on this show, why you're not in Miami?
Why don't we start with Duncan?
Sure, my name's Matthew, CEO of Sino Global Capital. We write strategic checks to international projects. Why is it strategic? Because we do China for you. So I'm in a city tonight, 3 a.m. here. It's a city tonight that I'm sure you've never heard of, with about the size of Chicago. And I'm not in Miami, which I fucking wish I was, but it's just too much of a hassle with quarantine. So I just couldn't do the quarantine, basically. Great to be here.
Nice.
Is it quarantine like you'd have to quarantine when you got there, or what? Like
on the way back, I only checked into it a little bit because it immediately looked like too much of a pain in the ass. But for sure, on the way back, I would have to quarantine. Like they put me in a hotel for 2-3 weeks, and I wouldn't be able to leave the hotel room. I just can't do that. I fundamentally would lose my damn mind. So I would love to be in Miami, but I just can't do the damage on the way back.
Fair enough.
If you can't do the time, then don't do the crime or something.
Duncan, what about you?
All right. Well, I'm Duncan. So I got into crypto in like early 2018. Not a great time to get in, but really started to appreciate like the macro thesis behind Bitcoin. And I think it like really strengthened my conviction. And then in April of 2020, I started working with some family offices, getting them involved in crypto. So like mostly Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then also Galaxy Digital. I feel like no one talks about this, but Novogratz's company, Galaxy Digital, is like tradable on the TSX. So I feel like it's one of the better crypto equities out there, but no one seems to talk about it. I think they're going to get uplisted in the second half of this year. Anyways, and then so Flood Capital is my Twitter account. Started that a couple months ago just to share some independent research. I'm doing it with my cousin. We're just trying to get a little bit more involved in the space and and meet some people. So got on the show because I was talking to Cobie, and yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah, so sometimes I open my Telegram and like strangers message me, just people I've never spoken to before send me a message, and I read them all because I don't know, I've got nothing else to do, and half the time they just say something offensive. So like half the time it's a shit joke related to a recent tweet. So like my bike got nicked. and half my Telegram messages were like, "Hey, want to buy a bike?" I was like, "Bro, I've got like 30 of these messages. That's not original whatsoever." But every now and again, there's something. It's like, here's a tweet thread. Have a look, and like, Duncan, you sent me one. I didn't know it was you. You said, have a look at this tweet thread, and it was really good, so I shared it. Then you sent me another one that was really good, and I shared. And then I clocked that you were just sending me it from the same account. I was like, wait, is this you? You're just showing your own tweets to me. But they've all been really good, so that's how you ended up here. Jack, who are you? How did you end up here?
Yeah, I got on the crypto late 2013, which was also not a great time to get into it at the time. Started trading full-time in the beginning of 2017 when I lost my job, which was a great time to lose your job, turns out, and focus on crypto. And I've known you and Ledger for years, and I'm not in Miami because I have young kids and my wife would have killed me. So I thought about it, but
yeah,
it would not have worked.
I thought about it as well, and I was like, actually, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do it. Fuck it, I don't mind quarantining when I get back or whatever. And then I looked up the US rules, and the US rules, like, if you've been in the UK in the last 2 weeks, you can't go. And I was like, well, I've got to go somewhere for 2 weeks that'll allow me from the UK to go in. I was like, the only place that's realistic to go is Dubai, but I would have had to set off before my mom's birthday, and I was like, do I want to go to my mom's birthday or do I want to go to Miami? And for some reason I chose my mom's birthday. The
Mom,
if you're watching, love you very much. Today. However, I now wish I'd gone to Miami. All the photos coming out, I've got like massive FOMO.
You just have massive regret.
I've been to all of my mom's birthdays. I could have skipped one. Sorry, Mom. Love you.
That's awesome.
But yeah, thanks all for coming on the show. I just saw my brothers in the my brothers in the chat. He'll understand. Thanks all for coming on the show. Like, honestly, I've got no idea what's going to happen, what we're going to talk about. Who fucking knows? But Jack, I've known you since basically when I got into crypto, since my early days. So I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff we can talk about there. Duncan, I think there's a bunch of things that you want to chat and share that you've been thinking about. And Matty, the people want to know what's going on in your life. Is your fiance in the building? Like, what is happening? We just need some general degeneracy from you.
I have a question for Matty straight out while I'm thinking of it. You specialize in China. You wrote an article on Decrypt, I guess a week or two ago, and I want to know: do you know that the percentage outcomes? You said here's the things that could happen from the China FUD. Yeah. Do you know that the percentages added up to 110%?
The percentages came from Su Yao. So if you look, Su Yao, who's a good friend, she's brilliant, by the way. She's actually just graduated Harvard MBA, but the percentages came from her. And if you'll look, the section where it had like the base case, which was my thinking basically. So I take responsibility for the base case. I take no responsibility for the percentages. Those all credit go to Harvard MBA.
So,
but Su Yao is great.
Yeah,
she just
good.
Graduated Harvard MBA.
That's
She's
awesome.
A friend. She's joining or has joined Solana, and she's actually quite brilliant. She's one of the. So she now does this part-time, the journalism, crypto beat, China beat, but she's one of the best sources for information on the ground here in China. On the journalism side, she's quite good at it.
One of the likely outcomes that you mentioned was use some phrase along the lines of a lot of thunder but a little rain, and you gave that as a fairly likely and most optimistic outcome, it seemed, of the ones that you mentioned. Can you describe what that means?
So again, that was that was coming from Su Yao, but the basic scenario that we think is. That there will be some clamping down on Bitcoin mining on kind of a regional basis. So there will be things decided at the provincial level. It may be that Inner Mongolia ends up being stricter, and Sichuan, which is where the hydroelectric power base, that may be more open for business for various reasons. But basically on the mining side, we think it's going to be kind of a mixed outcome. And then the second facet is on the trading side, where a likely outcome is that there will be some clamping down on leverage, futures trading, things like that. But anything with spot will probably still be fair game going forward. But really, I think the most important thing to understand, taking a kind of a step back, which I think people are missing, is that because we're all in crypto, we're kind of putting ourselves at the center of this story. But actually, this is about financial stability of the broader financial markets here in China. So it was a routine meeting of financial stability related committees and such. It is super significant that it was at the VP level. That's tremendously important. But what we're talking about is really a readout, a meeting minutes with a couple line items related to crypto. And so I think it's important to understand that this is about overall financial stability in the markets, and crypto is a small part of that story. So I think there's a lot of confusion on that point, and that may be why some people started talking about extreme possible outcomes that were more extreme.
Yeah, we'll link up the article in the show notes too, because I appreciated your take. I just hear like every...
So I take responsibility. So I just want to be clear again, because it seems confused. I take responsibility for the part where I'm quoted, but 80% of the thinking is not mine. I take responsibility for the part quoted. Well, just want to be clear on that.
It was a great article, and I just hear like China banned Bitcoin again like every 6 months. So hearing more nuance to the case was helpful.
Good.
It has been happening since actual 2012. Like it has been. When I got into crypto, it was already like the sort of meme. Oh, they banned Bitcoin again. And then it went quiet for a couple of years. They like skipped a couple of years, like 2019, 2020. They didn't bother banning anything. Maybe they just they got liquidated or something.
They don't have to ban it when it's in a bear market.
I wrote a thing that was like, here are the stages of like coordinated FUD. And I intentionally left it out because I was like, that is so played out that it's like, surely that they can't do that again. They've done that over 20 times now. And then lo and behold, 2 weeks later, they did it. And I was like, fuck, I deleted that from the tweet. That would have been such a good tweet now. I had big regrets. Jack, from the early days, which do you reckon was the most effective FUD? Which was the one that like made you like feel the fear?
I mean, it was that China banning Bitcoin, because that is right where I entered. I found out about Bitcoin. I found out about Bitcoin randomly on Reddit, and I was about to get married. And I told my then fiance, I was like, we should buy Bitcoin. And she's like, we have a wedding in like a week. Can we just wait till after the wedding? And that was during the big run up from, I don't know where it started, but the big run up to $1,000. And I saw it at around $400. So we get married, go on the honeymoon, come back, and it's at $1,000. And so I was like, clearly this train is just getting started. So I convinced her to drop some money into Bitcoin. Wasn't a ton, but we didn't have a lot of money at the time. And I think back then you would initiate a buy on Coinbase, but it wasn't instant. Like your buy was locked in, but you had to wait, for the money to arrive. And that night, China bans Bitcoin, and we dropped 50%. And like, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't panic sell because I didn't have my Bitcoin yet. I didn't have custody yet. I couldn't buy more because you can't, at least at the time on Coinbase, you couldn't initiate another buy until like your very first buy had been successful. So I just watched it all night, just like dying. The next day, my wife asked kind of tongue in cheek, how our investment was going. And I was like, oh, it's a long-term investment. Like, we don't even think about it now. It's long-term. So that was my initiation to crypto. So like at this point, I mean, China bans Bitcoin in 2021. It's like, I've seen this 10 times. It's not as scary anymore.
What an initiation though. Just like the in-between period when your deposit's not even hit yet. That's amazing.
Honestly, not too dissimilar from mine, because like I got into crypto at a similar time, maybe a little bit earlier, but I wasn't like all in. I wasn't like paying attention to it all the time, as I did for the sort of last 8 years. back then I was a more free person and I had other interests. But as soon as I started like concentrating on it more and more and spending more time on it, we did the same thing. We had the big run up, had the China ban. After that, we had Mt. Gox. It was like, I just started paying attention to this and everything started collapsing in front of me. And I honestly wonder if it had gone better if I started paying more attention a little bit earlier, whether I would have lost interest sooner, because I was like, you know, bag holding and therefore had to like play with altcoins and, you know, like try and make money to recoup. It made me like learn a ton and get way more interested in the space, and therefore maybe like sort of locked me in forever. Whereas if it just done a nice run, I'd like bought and then sold the top, I would have been like, oh, that was great, I'm out. And like
done.
10 years later, everyone's buying Dogecoin and I'm tilted.
But didn't a lot of people do that back then? I mean, just make like some kind of initial gains, and then they're like, oh, good, I sold Bitcoin at $100 each. I made a 3x, and off I go to the.
Yeah, when I joined crypto Twitter, maybe Jack, you can talk about this as well. But like when I joined crypto Twitter, there was like 3 accounts that had crypto in their name. There was like King BTC, who's now Bob Laxative. There was a guy called Idzy something. I don't remember what his full name was. There was a guy called Crypto Boomer who built Earthcoin. And then the other crypto accounts were like penny stock pumpers, basically, like the Rich Douche or whatever it was called, who were like paying attention to crypto instead. And back then, nearly all of those accounts, the only one that's still around is Bob. Like Bob, Jeebus, and me, I think, that I knew in my like first year on crypto Twitter. Like crypto Twitter wasn't even a thing, to be honest. So every cycle, there's like a big account that runs through the cycle, and they're actually macro bearish, or they think it's a scam, and they think like, oh, I'm gonna like ride this. This is a once in a lifetime pump. I'll ride it and I'll get out with my winnings. They make a few $100,000 or maybe $1 million or $2 million and then leave. And then you always see them come back at like the top of the next bubble, or like as it's like pumping, broken all-time high of the next bubble, and they're not allocated properly anymore because they, you know, cashed everything out to buy I don't know, a nice car or something. But like none of the people from our era are still around, really, are they, Jack?
Really not that many, no. Amazingly, back from probably not 13, but 2014, 15, I got in with a group of friends. We met in coin markets, you know, kind of branched off. And every single one...
what coin markets was.
Hey, I was not in the upper echelons of coin markets at the time, so I didn't even know what coin markets was. I was probably being dumped on.
So Coin Markets was an IRC room on Altcoin Web server. Was it on Altcoin Web? Which was Altcoin Web server, which was run by a guy called Andre, who was like a really good altcoin trader, but then he went full religious on a coin called Saturn, and ended up forking it to make Saturn 2, which went to zero. It was like the place where I guess the entire crypto Twitter community would sort of sit and chat every day. Maybe there was a few hundred people in there. And then there was a couple of private rooms offshoots, so like small groups of people would like make their own private room. And there was like several tiers of private room, like a private room, but then like a subset of a private room without a few of those people in. And then a smaller subset and a smaller subset. Those were the good old days, mate.
All that stuff still happens too. It just eventually, at some point, it moved to Telegram, right? And then now I feel like, especially like the token people have mostly moved to Discord.
Yeah, there's even a period of time, I don't know if you participated in this, Jack, where everyone was on TeamSpeak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really trading Bitcoin itself very much at the time, but I think that was mostly Bitcoin trading focused. I was knee deep in shitcoins. So I never went over to TeamSpeak once too much. But eventually, I got introduced to Margin, and then that's when I switched over to Bitcoin trading.
Yeah, it was... yeah. But most of those people are gone now, I think. Like, not many of them still stick around. Anyway. Matty, how did you get into crypto, and what were you doing before you were indoctrinated?
I got into crypto. Well, I guess my first business experience in crypto was in 2013 with my IB hat on, when I tried here in China to pitch one of China's largest telecommunication companies on having a phone designed specifically for Bitcoin power users. And they basically laughed me out of the fucking room and told me I was a fucking idiot. So that was my first business experience with Bitcoin in 13. I came across the meeting notes from that a couple months ago. It was kind of surreal. So basically my background is TradFi. And so Sino's business for many years has been representing international technology companies in China for strategic partnership and investment. But the concept was always that we would develop one or more sector competencies naturally over time. And I just absolutely fell in love with the space from a tech perspective post Ethereum. And so we quickly went all in. And kind of concurrently, I had some extremely successful angel investments. So we pivoted as a firm from being on the sell side investment side to investing for our own account. So it's been a long journey.
Cool, that makes a lot of sense. So you said specifically after Ethereum you were in it for the tech. What is...
I thought post Ethereum, I thought that this is suddenly a much bigger story that was very eye-opening for me. To the concept of being able to add intelligence to money, smart contracts, and things like that. Suddenly, that was a much bigger story for me, and so that's what led me. I had been following Bitcoin, obviously professionally since 2013. Before that, personally, but that's what led me to make the decision to go full time on the business side.
So you came from the sell side, you said, right?
Yeah.
Is there ever a temptation to
TradFi sell side? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a temptation to approach crypto in that way? Like there's plenty of stuff that sucks and seems shortable. So do you ever,
well, no. Side, I'm using that phrase in the TradFi context. So what that means basically is that we would represent companies in China that are looking to find strategic investors, things like that. So I'm using sell side in the TradFi as opposed to short selling, things like that.
I see. Gotcha.
You can't short anything.
For some reason, people in the chat keep saying I'm seeing two things for feedback. First, that I don't have a neck, which I already know that, by the way, guys. Thank you. I'm already aware. You can't see my neck. There isn't any. But also, people are asking if I'm being held hostage and to blink twice. I'm not totally sure what that's all about. It may be because I'm short on sleep and have had a lot of coffee. But I'm not sure what else to say at this time.
I see your neck very clearly. They're just the memory of Trader Main is too strong, and then all you see on Twitter right now is Size Chad pictures. It's like, is Size Chad?
I fucking love Size Chad, by the way. I somehow randomly became friends with Size Chad. I don't even know how, and I fucking love Size Chad. I love that guy.
Never has a username been more fitting for a person. Like, I don't know what his real name is, but whatever his parents called him, they got it wrong. They should have just written Size Chad on the birth certificate.
Well, you know what's funny, too? He was telling me, because, I have no idea how, but I randomly became friends with Size Chad. So he was telling me, which I think is fucking hysterical. So he, when he went off to college, for some reason, just because kind of like in real life shit posting, he randomly decided to tell people that his name was Chad, which it is not. And so for years, many of his best friends from college thought his name was Chad, which it's fucking not. Which only crypto people do things like this. I'm firmly convinced that normal people don't do this.
I mean, what would you do if you your friend was like, oh, by the way, that's not my name. My real name's this. And you're like, why did you change? Why did you tell me that? And you're like, don't know. I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
just told you the wrong thing.
So Duncan, the chat thinks that you're actually just a recording, infinite looping, like the periodic smile. So we need to hear more about your crypto thesis here, what you've got on your mind. Let's just do state of the market according to Flood.
Yeah, sure.
And also the chat said, "Are you 12?"
No. Okay, well, I can talk a little bit about like the macro cycle, where I think I think a lot of people are getting scared that like we're entering into a new bear market and stuff, but I'm firmly in this is a correction camp. And I guess like I'm gonna talk a little bit about like the US here, but so from a macro perspective, like the Federal Reserve has bought I think 50 to 60% of all like the treasuries issued by the US government since COVID has started. So essentially, like when people say money printing, that's what they're talking about. It's like the US government's issuing bonds, selling them to the Fed, and then they're spending the money. So like the US deficits are so big right now that no one else can absorb it other than the Fed, and they're essentially like financing themselves. Like for instance, like the US government's tax receipts can't even cover their like treasury spending. So like the interest on their debt and the pay-as-you-go portion of their entitlement. So they need to issue more debt just to service their existing liabilities. Like if you think about that, it's pretty mind-blowing. They're issuing debt to pay interest on their debt. So like they've gotten into that situation where it's like very acute historically, like when governments have gotten into the situation where they're printing money to pay the interest, it typically gets like really acute. And the last time we've seen like US debt to GDP this bad, around 130% right now, was in World War II. And how we got out of that last time was like the Fed capping treasury rates at 2.5% on the 10-year. And then they had GDP growth 5 to 6%, super high inflation, like north of 10% in the 1940s and 50s. And so that means that someone holding like a 10-year treasury that's yielding 2.5% was losing like anywhere between like 10 to like at points like 15% in real value every year. So like real negative rates got down to like negative 14%. And in this cycle, this COVID cycle, like similar backdrop, like we've only seen negative real rates down to 1%. And it's like really similar how they had back then the large infrastructure package, like in the 1950s, the Eisenhower highway system. And so we kind of see Biden doing the same thing here, like the 1.9 trillion package, and then the $6 trillion budget that they're proposing. And so nowadays, if you think how we're going to delever from 130% debt to GDP, which is like is not sustainable, back down to a sustainable level of like 60 to 70% debt to GDP, you're going to need some like really strong nominal GDP growth. And like, for instance, to get from 130 to like 70, you'd need about 20% a year GDP growth for 5 years. And like the majority of that's going to be inflation, right? So you have real growth and then inflation. So let's say like 15% of that's inflation. So you're going to get 15% inflation for the next like 5 years, or whatever, like 6%, 7% inflation for the next 10 years in order to delever. And it's not just like Bitcoin or like Ethereum or crypto is going to appreciate at like whatever, 7 to 15% because that's inflation. It's like, this is going to light a fire under the ass of like the US bond market, the global bond market. So it's like $45 trillion in the US for bonds, and then like 150 trillion globally. So think about like those bonds experiencing like a negative real rates of like 10 to like 7 to 15%. And that money is going to have to flow into other markets. And since the bond market's like so big, like think of it as like a pyramid. So it's like bonds, equities, then you have like some private equity, gold, Bitcoin is at the very tiny bottom. So if we get any flows, it's going to be like putting like a pool into a water bottle. So like that's kind of like macro thesis around like just the state of the world is drowning in debt, and the only way to like get out of this is inflation. And I think it's become pretty clear that that's where we're heading.
I think they just print. They've fucked themselves. They just keep printing.
Yeah,
they print to cure the problem of printing.
Yeah, no, that's what they did in World War II. Is like you build up so much debt that you need to like destroy its value on a real basis, right?
What's the counter argument? What, like, if I was a well-researched person and not like a person that sits in my pajamas on stream and drinks all day, what would my counter argument to be? It's like, no, you're wrong, and here's why.
Well, I think like for a while the counter argument was like, we're not at this situation where debt to GDP like is 130%, because like that's historically where it's really bad, right? So like without COVID, like it was getting bad, but it was kind of like, oh, look at Japan, like their debt to GDP is like 250%, and they've just kind of been doing like, they've been like all right for like 25 years. But like the situation in the US is a lot different, because like the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So they and like the size of the tax receipts right now being greater than their true interest expense, like put pressure on them directly. Like if we go like more into historical context, how the US has been able to run these massive deficits for like 60 years is because like everyone else in the world was like very willing to buy US treasuries, right? Because like the US dollar was the reserve currency of the world. And back before the 1970s, it was backed by gold. So people would just buy dollars, and that would be the same as buying gold, and they'd hold that in their FX reserves. And then in 1970, like they signed a contract with Saudi Arabia where it's like you can only purchase oil in dollars. So it's always had a use. And slowly that use has like started to go further and further away. And like these central banks around the world now have like stopped fully buying treasuries, and it's just left to the Fed's holding the bag. So it's just like progressively gotten worse and worse. But I don't really know. I haven't heard like a really great argument against it, because this trend has been playing out for like 60 or 70 years. It's like at some point you're going to need to unwind it. And it's just like a matter of when. And I think it's becoming like really acute right now, just because of like the tax receipt situation.
So someone in chat just said, okay, this boy is smarter than me. Can you ask him what his bags are?
Spill them.
Yeah, like okay, so obviously like Bitcoin, Ethereum, the big ones, but like Galaxy, I feel like not a lot of people know about Galaxy. It's traded on the TSX right now. It's Novogratz' company. I think it could be like it's obviously like not a low cap thing anymore, but if you're a real bull in crypto long term, like this is a company that could look like a Google or like an Amazon of the space in like 10, 15 years, right? Like they have Bitcoin mining, they have Bitcoin investment banking, they have Bitcoin asset management. They just acquired BitGo.
Is Novo your uncle though?
Not my uncle. But like essentially they have everything they need to become like kind of the go-to infrastructure for crypto. And if they can start like siphoning the US institution away from Coinbase, then I think like they're positioned really well to like kind of be the biggest in crypto within the US. And like Coinbase, I just guess like a lot of their revenue and stuff has come from the retail trading business. And I think like that's going to be a really hard business to be in. Like that's just going to get more and more competitive. Like Coinbase isn't, in like 5 years, they can't still charge me 4% fees to buy on my debit card. Like those margins are going to get killed. And I think that's why Galaxy is like really well positioned. They're not focusing on retail, but like institutionally, they have like everything covered.
Hey,
so,
Matty.
Bro, someone chat's not happy. They said
No.
I can't find it on Sushi Swap.
Galaxy.
Where's that?
Sushi. So Matty, everything in the U.S. is like on super shortage, very expensive, and there's this concept that people keep talking about, even if they're not like long-term inflation.
What does that mean? Super shortage. Everything's super shortage.
On a
means what?
super shortage, like you just like if you want to buy a sink, it's like a 3-month wait to get.
Oh yeah,
They're
because
not
supply
inventory.
chain is fucking
Yeah,
with
supply chain
COVID.
is-
Yeah.
That's a classic Ledger dad comment. If you'd like to buy a sink, who else is buying a sink?
Yeah.
Has anyone that's
Yeah,
listened
well,
to this tried to buy a sink in the last
all
few
the
years?
all the supply chains got fucked with COVID, and that's still playing out. Not to mention whatever that bullshit was in the Middle East with the fucking ship a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, is that also going on in the East? Like, what does the supply chain infrastructure look like? What's the pricing of stuff look like? Is everything just totally out of whack?
Sorry
not.
to
not.
interrupt. Sorry to
The short
interrupt.
answer is it's not.
Okay.
I'm
It's
sorry
not,
to
because so
interrupt.
much
but
of
I'm
that
just
supply chain is local. So it's not, unless you want to buy a fucking hard drive, you can't because of goddamn Chia. But other than that, you're pretty much good. By the way, what's this kid? Flood. What is the strongest possible way I can disagree with everything you just said?
Oh man, let's go. Bring it. Give us the counter argument.
Here we go.
Here we go.
First of all, aside from the yield curve, which tells us that the market thinks you're wrong, the underinvestment in the United States is absolutely enormous. We've got roads falling apart. We got bridges falling apart. We've got infrastructure that hasn't been replaced for decades. Actually, the United States has a major underinvestment problem. It would be literally impossible for me to disagree more strongly with everything you just said. Just FYI.
Well, no, it's not.
In
like,
which, you don't have to give a fuck, and probably you don't. And
it's not a
maybe you should.
thing.
But I would like to go on the record as saying that I disagree in the strongest possible terms for whoever might give a fuck.
Wait, so what specifically do you disagree with that we're going to get inflation?
I disagree. So the yield curve indicates that the market thinks you're wrong about inflation. You could look at the yield curve out years, decades, and see what the market anticipates. Number two, if you look at the actual situation on the ground, there's an enormous underinvestment problem for infrastructure, for anything related to R&D. We used to be a big spender, government-led R&D, which we fundamentally have decided to not believe in anymore, which is one reason we're getting our asses kicked by China more every year. I would argue there's an enormous underinvestment problem. I would argue the exact opposite.
Yeah, I agree that there's like underinvestment. Like, I guess that's not really the point. It's like,
oh, maybe I misunderstood. Okay.
Yeah,
Tell me.
I think that like what Biden's stimulus and all, I'm not saying it's bad. Like, it's the way to delever. Like, yeah, infrastructure packages, like that's how we're going to get growth, like GDP growth and stuff. But I'm saying like in order to delever the economy is just like similarly, like we've seen a lot of central banks talking about like yield curve control right now. And then like, after World War II, how we delevered was capping rates. Right. So like the market like couldn't even tell you what it was actually thinking because it's capping rates. And like that's what QE is. It's like pseudo rate control because it's buying bonds. Right. So
I'm not sure I understand. How can we invest more in infrastructure and such while delevering? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, because you're delevering the nominal value of the debt. Like, so like the debt is $1 today, but if we make that dollar worth less in the future, then it's not a big a deal. Right. So like if you spend a ton on GDP growth,
I mean, most of it is USD denominated debt that we owe to ourselves.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm saying like,
which is very different, by the way, when you talked about Japan, which one of the issues with Japan in the 80s, that was the example from earlier, is that their debt was not denominated. A lot of it was not denominated in yen. So that's fundamentally a very different.
Isn't some of this the difference between like monetary policy and fiscal policy? So like if we have, if the way we monetize what we do could be along the lines of what Duncan's talking about, whereas the fiscal policy of choosing to invest in infrastructure and whatnot is also at play. I don't know. I've heard a lot of both of these arguments, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess
I like to argue, so I wanted to take this opportunity to argue because
I like it. I like it.
I think that infrastructure spending.
Don't take it the wrong way. I will argue about anything.
I agree with you. Like infrastructure spending and all that sort of stuff is going to be like net positive, but I think like the person who's going to get screwed over is like people holding like bonds and cash. Like this on net, if they can delever, will be like really good for the economy because they can spend a lot of money on infrastructure. It's just like they're in a situation where like I don't know how you get out of the scenario where like the interest on your debt alongside like the entitlements that you have to pay is greater than your tax receipts, right? So they have to find a way to delever from that. It's not going to necessarily be bad for like U.S.
But again, the market is giving us free money right now. The interest on debt is very, 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 very low. Why would we not want to take advantage of that? I don't understand. If people are giving you free money, which is almost what we're dealing with here, the interest is rock bottom. Why? I'm not sure I get it.
It's good for the issues, or it's good for like it's not good for the holders of debt. It's good for like issuing debt, right? Like I can issue debt at 0%, and hopefully if there's inflation, like I'll have to pay back less. But like the person actually holding
if I give you $1 million loan today at 0%, I say pay me back in 10 years, no interest. So you're gonna take that?
Wait, so I have to buy it from you?
I'm gonna give you $1 million loan, and you pay me back no interest 10 years from now. You want it?
Yes.
Everybody wants that.
That's like no.
All right. So what's this? Is the same thing on a macro scale. We're getting money with with rock bottom interest rates.
Yeah.
So
no,
that we should be saying absolutely yes. Let's take that, and then we should be funding infrastructure.
Yeah. No, I agree with you that.
Okay.
Like I don't really know where we're disagreeing on this.
Oh, maybe I'm not understanding. I guess I don't. It sounds like you want to delever, which means you want us to issue less debt, right? You're concerned about
inflate. Like you can issue more debt and inflate it away. Just make the real value of it less.
Wait, you want? Okay, I'm sorry. You want more inflation? Is that correct?
Yes, that's how you get out of a scenario like this.
Okay. Oh, okay. I did misunderstand. This is I in fact did misunderstand you. So this is a pro-inflation argument. What's your target inflation?
Well, like I was saying, so the same situation we were in after World
I'm
War.
not sure I've ever heard anyone argue for pro-inflation before. I did in fact misunderstand.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I think it's going to happen. Like we were in a very debt to GDP. So the debt to GDP after World War II was 130%. We did infrastructure packages, lots of stuff like that to increase nominal GDP, so like increase growth and also and also inflation, so decrease the value of our debt. So from getting from 130% GDP down to like 60, 70% debt to GDP, it took like 5 to 10 years of like 10% inflation and like 5% GDP growth. So that's what I think is like a similar scenario is going to happen now, is we're going to like roll like.
There's no way we're having inflation like that anytime soon. It's not going to happen.
Okay, well,
how do you solve? What's the justification for that type of inflation not being possible in your mind?
So you said 5 to 10%, correct? Is that the number you just said?
Yeah.
We haven't had inflation like that since 1980 is the last time we've had that type of inflation.
Yeah.
So it is too strong to say impossible. That's true. I should not say impossible. I should say extremely unlikely. Extremely unlikely. It's been 41 years since we had inflation.
I think you're making your argument, like the argument for me. It's like the last time the debt was this bad was in World War II, which is 70 years ago. And the last time inflation was this bad. I think it was also bad in the 70s, but like it was also bad back then. So it's like you're comparing.
I think if you look at the yield curve, I think you'll find that the market strongly disagrees with what you're saying, as do I.
Because the Fed is like using QE and buying those bonds to like keep rates low.
The chat is deciding. Someone started a poll in chat to pick the team. It's currently 60-40 to Flood. Matty, what do you feel about this? The people are abandoning you.
That's perfectly fine. I have no opinion on that. I don't. So I don't make my decisions based on what's popular.
General or not. Consensus.
Could not care less.
Yeah, me neither. That's a good point. However, the chat does want to know, what is your...
Oh, yeah, I do see here, Gen Z 1, Boomer 0. That's okay. I'm still correct. I'm still correct.
The chat wants to know...
Also, mute Matty's mic. Okay.
What is your bull thesis for COPE? And I have a second question. That question came from chat. My question is, what is COPE? Because I thought it was a meme coin like Doge, where it's just a meme word, but apparently I'm wrong.
So COPE is Siri's vision, where he's building a creation tool, which basically will have a leaderboard and different ways of betting on people and being able to visualize who is actually making the most successful market calls. So it's fundamentally a curation tool, and the first example of that curation will be trading related, but there's no reason it couldn't expand to other types of curation, such as with NFTs, and things like that. So for example, you could have a creation tool for traders that says who is making the best calls, but then for NFTs, it could be about who is identifying the next sexy NFT faster than anyone else. So basically, Theory has been low-key one of the most talented and respected developers in the space for many years. And he's building a creation engine. And we're super thrilled to back him because we trust him and we know he's extraordinarily talented. In the worst case, if he doesn't get the creation engine right the first time, he'll pivot and he'll do something extraordinary. I'm very confident in Siri.
So what I'm hearing is like your bull thesis is the team, which is very similar to Loma Shop.
Yeah, we're bottom up. We're 100% bottom up. We start with team, especially for something that's very early with seed. So we start with, do we trust this guy? Are they fucking talented? Are they fucking amazing? Do we want to hang out with them for literally years because we make long-term investments? All not interested in doing things with a 3 month time horizon, flipping on the retail, things like that. So it all starts with team, but very bottom up. I'm just laughing at all these people. Matty is a Goblin Zone 11 says Matty is a stupid boomer.
You gotta ignore it.
No, I love it. I love it.
If you talk to the chat,
Goblin Zone 11, Matty is a stupid boomer. I love it.
If you talk to the chat.
Also, Short Squeeze is Matty's nickname. That's a new one.
That's good.
That's a new one.
So, hey, Matty, one of the things I wanted to, I apologize, Cobie, I'm bringing back the inflation debate. I don't know if you can see my chart here.
I'm gonna start a new podcast with someone else.
So this is my question about when you say what the market signals, because when I look at the 30-year, it seems like the spread is getting wider, and even though the 30-year, like the long end of the rates or whatever are inching up, if they broke up higher, isn't that the market indicating that they do expect inflation alongside like the softening of some of the valuations that we see like in things like tech stocks? So even though if the Fed is going to control the short end of the rate by like setting whatever their rate is, if the spread widens and the 30-year starts to react to the upside, it's back to where it was in 2018 and where it broke down from pre-COVID. Could that insinuate that inflation is possible?
Yeah, like I guess so. So obviously we're seeing rising rates on the long end of the curve right now, but what happened after World War II is kind of like the example I keep on going back to. And like what QE is, it's like buying bonds along the curve. So like if you're doing enough of that, it's effectively like yield curve control, right? Where they can cap yields at like the long end of the curve, like they did after World War II, right? So like if they didn't want the 10-year rate going above 2.5%, they would just like cap yields at that rate. Right. So I think like that's kind of my argument is like they don't want high interest rates because that's going to make all the debt servicing even worse. But so essentially what they're going to do is going to cap.
If rates went high, if rates went too high, it just makes a lot of stuff unsustainable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Matty, do you think I'm saying anything that's logical, or am I just being very basic here?
Very Ledger.
Yeah. Is this like straight up 100 IQ activity?
I'm sorry, was that directed at me?
Yeah.
Oh, to be fully candid, I was tweeting update. I'm getting absolute. I was typing update because before I wrote the up only chat feed, not gonna lie, is hysterical, and I was typing update. I'm getting absolutely roasted in the up only chat feed, so I confess that I was not quite listening for a minute.
It's okay. Lazy Gumby said Ledger, you'll make more money growing your audience than learning about macro bullshit. So it's not just you, don't worry. It's also me.
Okay. So I got circled back. I'm going to pretend we never went back to talking about inflation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ledger. One thing you mentioned in your Cope thesis, it reminded me of Konstantin Lomashuk's like invest in people, don't invest in projects. But at the end of your comment, you said we don't we don't flip onto retail. You know, we have a longer term outlook.
That's absolutely right.
It's been sort of a hot topic recently, right? With you know, as you get into the middle or to the late points of a cycle, the cash grabs increase because, you know, early in the cycle, people start doing their cash grabs. They start working on them. They're like, it's a bull market. We're at new all-time highs. They start working on their cash grabs, but it takes a couple of months to like put things together to build a deck and start a project and shit. And the like project quality decreases over time. And if you're raising money in crypto, like here's the thing: if you're raising money in crypto and your project sucks, all you have to do is make the tokenomics better. It doesn't matter. You can raise money to do anything in crypto because you just reduce your market cap and make your tokenomics incredibly favorable to vulture capitalists. That's all you have to do. Like if you have a great project, you can raise now at $500 million valuation. If you have a mediocre project, you can raise it a couple $100 million. If your project sucks, there's no way it's going to work. It's completely stupid. It's technically impossible. It's infeasible. You were previously arrested by the SEC for pumping stocks in the early noughties. If you have you're literally currently in prison, then you need to reduce the market cap of your project and make the tokenomics incredibly favorable to investors. And one way that projects seem to do that is they say, look, like if I ask all of you now, do you want to buy something brand new at like a $2 million market cap? You say, hell yeah, $2 million market cap. That's fucking tiny. I don't even need to know what it is. I'm fucking buying. $2 million market cap, that's small for crypto. I'm buying in. So if I make it 2 million, you're gonna buy. It doesn't matter that like the entire team are all doing their like shitcoining from prison, and like they just heard about crypto 3 weeks ago. Because 2 million market cap is gonna pump. That's going up. So you make it 2 million market cap, and then you let the investors have 30% of their tokens on day one. Day one. So you invest and 2 weeks later you've got 30% of your tokens, and it was 2 million market caps. It's going to open at 10 at least. So the investors with 33% or 30% of their investment has opened at 10, 30% of their investment at 2,600,000. So they're up quite a lot. The incentive for them is just a dump on day one, right? Like all of those people are selling. The only float that's available right now is fucking the pre-sale investors, the IDO investors, and the team. So they lock liquidity from their fundraise. They dump the investors fucking dump. They're dumping on themselves. They funded the project, which gets locked in liquidity, and then they dump on themselves. What the fuck? So their funds just race to steal from each other. That's basically what a pre-sale is in summary, if you didn't know. That's why you should never buy a pre-sale on market, something that had a pre-sale on day one on market. But there's been a lot of this recently, and there's been a lot of hate directed at particular participants, like, you know, hating the players. I'd argue that it's actually you know, a better use of time to hate the game, because like if the particular players today don't participate, there's going to find other participants. However, you were a little bit vocal on Twitter about this. I've just ranted about it for quite a lot. I'd love to let you an opportunity to rant about it as well.
I agree with basically most of what you just said. I think there's a lot of bullshit. So our approach, we try to be counter-cyclical. We're much more interested in being aggressive in a bear market where everybody's fucking scared and crying and has no money. And then in a bull market, when everybody's jerking off all the time, we're a lot less aggressive and much more cautious. So yeah, I mean, you know, we look at 100 projects a week and 90 of them are garbage, and 10 or 20 maybe we take calls with, and we look for people that I mean, look, there are a lot of tells when someone's just looking to have a 3-month project, a 6-month project, right? So I think you can get an intuition, but really we're interested in doing stuff for long-term horizons. So we just did Zapper, for example. How can you fucking not love Zapper? Amazing team, amazing project. And that's a great example of something where we'll be super excited to be supporting them for years. And so, you know, Solana and Serum, those are other examples of Sino portfolio companies. So really we're only interested candidly in a small slice of projects where people are looking to do serious things for a long time. You know, Most of this other stuff we just ignore. And then occasionally we take bets on, we make bets on people that we think are just fucking awesome. And that describes Siri and Cope.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I agree with honestly pretty much all of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts around layer ones, because you said that you got interested in the tech from Ethereum, and you've just mentioned Solana. Yeah. How do you see this like layer one space playing out over the next sort of like few years, 5 years, whatever?
So we think of the market as, so I think as backdrop, our basic view is that, and I'm sure most people probably would agree with this, but our basic view is that we're still extremely early. If you look at Bitcoin penetration rate, then it would be analogous to internet penetration rate in the United States in probably 1997, 1998, something like that. And that's for Bitcoin, right? So then if you start talking about DeFi and things like that, then really you're talking more about 1989 to 1993, probably, if you were to compare the penetration rates. So our starting point is that we're looking at the industry with the biggest growth potential since the 90s from a United States paradigm, and that there's a lot of room to run for a lot of market participants. With that, okay, so then the next thing is that we are extremely bullish on Ethereum. We have a huge stack. They have an enormous moat in terms of, for example, their developer community. Vitalik is a fucking boss. These guys are awesome. So we think Ethereum will be the major player for a long time to come, for the foreseeable future, basically. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges that go along with Ethereum right now for scaling, et cetera. But for us, it's kind of like it's the family car, right? It's a good fucking car. That's your weekday car. That's your Volvo. I don't know, your Volvo. I'm not a car guy. It's your Volvo, right? It's a dependable car. And it's a good car. So then there's other situations like Solana, which is like a goddamn Ferrari. Solana is your high performance vehicle. The analogy isn't perfect, right? Because Solana, the transactions also are 1 or 2 orders of magnitude cheaper than Ethereum. So that's not really luxury car. Analogy is not perfect. But look, this is your performance vehicle. So the interesting thing with Solana is the fact that the TPS is 1 or 2 orders of magnitude faster, and the transactions are on the order of as much as 10,000 times cheaper. The interesting thing then is that opens up a whole huge design space to do all kinds of things that don't quite make sense on Ethereum. So for us, there are different kinds of cars that you're going to see. Your everyday car, your Ferrari, things like that. And they're going to have different design spaces associated with them. There are some of them will develop niches, maybe even Near ends up being NFT focused, just as a hypothetical. But the point is that if Ethereum is your kind of default use case, default public chain, and then Solana, for example, as especially well suited to high performance fintech applications, there's tremendous, enormous, really, room for growth for both of those public chains and for other players as well. It's early days.
What's Bitcoin?
Basically. Wait. If ETH is, so you're saying ETH's a Volvo, and Solana's a Ferrari.
Not perfect, but look, ETH is the default choice in many ways today, right? So that's kind of like a
Volvo or something, and Solana's a Ferrari. What's Cardano?
Cardano is, so again, I'm not a car guy, so I gotta think. Cardano is like
my bike that just got nicked.
What's some bullshit car?
It's a Mazda Miata.
Cardano is like a not even a Mazda. What's worse than a Mazda? I don't know. I don't know much about cars, and I definitely don't know much about shit cars. What's the worst car you can think of? I don't know. A Mazda?
It's a
Solana is one of those Nikola trucks where they did the testing rolling them down a hill for the marketing videos.
You said Solana or Cardano? You meant Cardano.
Cardano. Yes.
Yeah. What's Bitcoin? What's Bitcoin?
Hold on. Cardano. Okay,
Bitcoin's
so Cardano.
a carriage.
Cardano is a used Mazda's a shit car, right? A used Mazda, but then the guy keeps telling you it's, and then you go to the used car salesman, and it's clearly a Mazda, but he keeps trying to tell you it's a Mercedes. That's Cardano.
So what's Bitcoin? You said it's a horse and carriage, Cobie?
I was just joking. It's because like people get triggered. My favorite comment from chat. Someone in chat said Bitcoin's a tank, which I liked quite a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
Someone in chat said, "Don't ask Flood because he's not old enough to drive."
I'm glad it's not me for a minute.
Yeah, if you can't up only TV, everyone gets roasted. They're not nice to anybody.
Yes,
they're not even nice to.
No, I like it. There's almost nothing I enjoy more than talking shit. It's like my passion in life. So bring it.
So Jack, I think you probably carry a different general thesis about how to approach projects. Like you're not doing VC type investments with long-term plans and stuff. But you're a veteran of the space, been around a minute. You've been open sometimes about the types of things you like to see in projects. So what's your general thesis about what do you look for when you're trying to flip a shitcoin?
I'm not that far off of where Matty is. I mean, I don't have, a team and the resources that VCs do to benefit projects. But if I like a project, I hold a long-term. You can see my hero hat. I was their second investor, I think. And I've held it ever since then. I think that was back in like 2016, maybe. And I'm still holding my hero.
Wait, no way. It's 2019. 2019.
Heroes 2019?
Yeah.
You sure about that?
It's got to be.
I don't recall feeling poor when I invested in them, and I was poor in 2019.
Maybe it was 2018. I don't know.
Anyway, and yeah, that comes down to the team, because in a space that moves as fast as crypto, projects, the final product can pivot so many times, and often it needs to, because new tech comes out or new competitors come out that beat them in the market, and there's potential in another area. So really it comes down to the team. And if I like a team and I trust the team, I don't really care what they're building, because they're gigabrains, and I will throw money at them and I know they'll get me a return. That said, I've invested in dozens and dozens of pre-sales back in like 2017, 2018 of coins that I didn't intend to hold for a long time. But kind of like Cobie said, hate the game. There were not a lot of coins back during the 2017, 2018 ICO boom that I invested in that I was like a firm believer in, because there's so much bullshit back then. But it was like, we're in a bull market. These sort of bullshit coins go up, I'll ride this pump. That's been one of the refreshing things about this cycle, is really, I feel like DeFi is kind of coming to its own, and there's real practical applications. And now, like when I'm investing into a project, I can actually talk about it with a straight face. And that's been really refreshing. It's been neat to see the potential really, really blossom.
I don't know what this poll actually question was, but the winner was Flood, Cobie. So
it was just pick a team. Pick a team.
Oh, so the chat's on Team Flood.
Nobody wanted to be Team Boomer. I can't believe that.
I think I'm on Team Boomer. I'm down with Team Boomer. That's fine.
Does anyone know who Nico Lul is?
No.
All right. That's lost. That's lost on everyone. Maybe I've revealed something about myself that I didn't want to. Let's move on very quickly.
Now they're all going to do so much research.
No, it's just she did the like weird TikTok video about like okay boomer TikTok video, and she was the like tax the rich like pro-socialist TikToker, and she released a YouTube video like a few days ago being like, here's my $3 million apartment tour. She's like she's like, I love shopping, and I'm like, wait, why did everyone follow this person again?
Did you see Elon Musk's wife or baby mama or wherever she is, Grimes?
You mean Pat's girlfriend?
You see that crazy video she put out yesterday.
No, tell us about it.
Amazing. Complete nonsense, but the theme was, so it was just gibberish, but she was saying that we should support AI because it will lead to communism. I think it was the theme. It was just the weirdest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Ledger, can you play it? Have you got it set up so they can hear the audio?
It would be a disaster.
Okay, don't do it then. But yeah, it was. I sent it to Path, and Path just said, "I love her." Okay, dude. I was like, "Bro, you need to get a girl." He was like, "I love her," and I was like, "All right, fine." Yeah, it didn't make much sense. She was basically saying AI is gonna implement communism, but without the flaws of previously implemented communism.
Right.
Communism will work this time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
work without farming when it's implemented by AI. Was the point of
Elon Musk will definitely help with that too.
Yeah.
The second richest man in the world. He's definitely going to help implement AI communism.
I mean,
skeptical.
He might be the, like, as long as he installs himself as God Emperor or something, then like everyone else having communism might be fine.
But that's how communism works, right? Like everybody else lives in communism and you live above it if you're in charge.
Yeah, actually, it sounds pretty good if you're in charge.
Yeah, sure.
I love this chat stream so much. Matty, do you argue with yourself in the mirror? No, surprisingly no, but I have been known when no one's looking and I'm working out at the gym to talk shit to myself in the mirror to get pumped up for a workout.
Can we get a sample? Get a sample?
What kind of things do you
weird?
say? Yeah, like, what do you say though? Depends what you say. What do you say?
I not too, let's fucking go. Let's do that.
Well, you don't dish yourself. You don't dish yourself like you fucking pussy.
No, it's not like that. No, it's not like you suck or whatever. No, it's more like, let's fucking go. Let's fucking do this kind of thing. Is that weird? I feel like it's weird, but I don't care.
I like it.
Also, Fester says he won't believe the show is live unless I blow a kiss. So
you gotta do it.
I love you, Festerus.
No, you got this could still be recorded. You gotta get closer to the camera, and you gotta like.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Use the hands,
I think
everything.
I think we nailed it already. I'm very concerned that Festerus would think it's pre-recorded.
I think all five of us need to blow a kiss at the same time, just for the chat.
I'm not big. Jack, I think what you were saying is true. Like, this is the first cycle where projects launch, and you have to like actually read the white paper because there's a chance it might be real. It might not, like, it might be possible. It might be a thing that they can actually build that has like a function. Whereas pre 2017, maybe even pre 2018, anything that wasn't like 99% of stuff, it was just like it completely impossible, technically infeasible, or just made up. Whereas this is the first cycle where you read a white paper and you're like, okay, I have to critically think about whether this is going to be a legitimate product or not. How have you adjusted to like trading and investing in these times where some things might actually be legitimate instead of it entirely being vaporware?
Yeah, I've had to think a lot longer term. I mean, you can look at, I got into DeFi. I wasn't early. It was early summer 2020, I think. So a lot of people were like already, people who were doing the research had already picked up the DeFi coins pretty cheap, and they were up many, many multiples. And so when I started looking at it, then really the change was these have there's quality behind them that they can run at many multiples, and there's actually fundamental value to these projects. It's not just, did it pump enough that all the pre-sale buyers are going to cash out and crash because it's a bullshit project that's over? You know, I can buy Aave and okay, someone, you know, they're already up 100x. but based off the fundamentals of the project and the adoption that it's showing, it's still a good place for me to enter. So yeah, like you said, I've had to actually read white papers now. I read like no white papers in 2017. I just looked at what the tokenomics were. How early am I in this race, But like now, there's actual fundamental adoption driving these things. Dare I say this time it's different?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that this cycle.
In the last cycle, it was like all this fat protocol thesis and stuff, and there wasn't really a lot of talk about, fee accrual or anything like that, like any way revenue can actually get back to token holders. It was just these kind of big ideas about scalability or whatever, like IOTA, like the DAG is going to replace a traditional blockchain or those types of things that are extremely difficult to value, but have a lot of narratives that you can associate with them. But then it seems like almost inevitable when they fail to get any market participation in the actual networks. That's why they just seem to go down 90% plus or 99%. And this time it's like, okay, well, even if this goes down, it's like now I can do a multiple of like fee generation relative to price and actually assign whether or not this is a true value, even relative to their total market capture and in a bear market. Like this is what type of fees they can generate even when we're in a bear market, and it makes it a lot more black and white in terms of how to analyze the ecosystem. Matty, do y'all look at any of that kind of stuff when you're like after the product's out? Like when you're choosing how long to stay invested in a project?
So of course we do periodic reviews and things like that. Look at what specifically?
Just like the fundamental tokenomics, how the protocol is playing out in real life relative to what you expected, et cetera.
Sure. I would say typically we're more focused on, so token economics in our view is very fixable. So I would be much more alarmed if there were issues with the product than I would with token economics. But yeah, of course we monitor things on an ongoing basis. But really it's more like a yearly decision for us to continue or not, yearly review.
Okay, so you're not like zoomed in when you're trying to decide what to do with these investments.
We take a very long-term view. So look, for us it's basically like this. Deal flow and access to deal flow is the number one thing that is most important to us. We get deal flow in two ways, fundamentally. The first is that we help people in China, and China is really fucking hard for international projects. It's arguably the most important market in crypto, and of the major markets, it's definitely the most esoteric, idiosyncratic, impenetrable for international projects. And so we can help projects with whatever they need in China. We have a whole team to do that. That's the number one way we get access to the high quality deal flow. But the number two way is what's relevant here, and that's that we fucking support these guys in the deepest way for the longest journey, and we are gonna by default be in their corner and fighting for them rather than constantly being on their back about look, if you can't get this to happen, we're gonna sell and all this fucking bullshit. We're the opposite of that. We're gonna fight for them. So those are the two basic ways that we get the highest quality deal flow, and so it's very important to us to have this long-term view for our portfolio companies and to be helping them get better rather than pressuring them or undercutting them or whatever.
How common are these horror stories from VCs of like threatening teams or, a variety of things that you hear? Is that the norm in crypto, or do you think most venture firms do try to go to bat for their portfolio companies?
So I think VC in crypto is kind of a weird thing because I think a lot of people that call themselves VCs are not really acting as VCs in crypto. So it's kind of a weird term to begin with. But I think pressuring portfolio companies. That's probably something that happens a lot more in TradFi VC, whereas in crypto VC, it much more often is, people just start dumping on retail and they'll just fuck the project and things like that.
Yeah. So they may support the company. And
yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people in the chat being like venture capitalist stuff, things like that. Look, a lot of VC stuff kind of fucking sucks. I don't disagree with that at all. We're trying to do something that's that we think is pretty different. I don't disagree that there are major issues with VC models in both TradFi and in crypto. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, I also think a lot. I agree with what you said. I was listening. I can hear while I was getting a drink, so I heard the whole thing.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said. A lot of crypto VCs are not actually VCs. Like they're not professional investors from a VC background. They're people who traded shit coins and graduated into like, oh, I can deal in SAFTs now. It's the same shit, but I can,
go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to say, I think that it's okay to graduate like that, but my issue is that they're not acting in a project supportive way. I think it's okay to build yourself up and develop into something more. I don't believe that you have to. I think it's fucking ridiculous to say, a VC has to be from Harvard Business School, or Stanford or fucking whatever. That's all bullshit, right? We're trying to leave all that crap behind. So it's okay to level up. That's fucking awesome. But I have no issue with that at all. My issue is they're not acting in a VC capacity, which is servicing projects, for the long haul.
Yeah, I think that's true. I've put together a list of VCs that I will no longer won't share a cap table with if they own a significant amount, and this year it's just ballooned to insane levels. I maybe need to leave crypto now because I can't invest in anything ever again.
I saw your joke about that. You were saying you're gonna start. I forget, but I saw you tweeted that. I think
I'm going to biotech. Biotech's the future.
No, yeah.
They don't have tokens yet, but I'll help them out. Everyone's gone full profit maxi, and the amount of anti-project behavior is just so nuts that in the world I came from, startups and tech and fintech would be seen as like gross negligence, I think.
Hold on.
No, in
agree.
in terms of how much behavior is the investors take that's detrimental to the project. If you think about an investor, right? Capital is easy to come by. You want money in crypto, everyone's got some. We've got Flood on here. He's just turned 8 and he's fucking rich. We've got Jack. He got into crypto in 2013 and he put his life savings in right before his wedding, and then it went to 0 and he's still rich. We got Matty. Matty's fucking rich as fuck. He's got 7 fiancées. We've got Ledger Stars. He's the absolute middle of the bell curve, and he's rich. Everyone is rich. Everyone that's listening to this chat is rich. The entire asset class went up 50x. If you bought at the top a couple of weeks ago, maybe you're not rich, sorry about that, but just stick to it, you'll be all right. Everyone's got money. Money's not difficult to come by. There's trillions of dollars sidelined that are trying to get an entry into something somehow. There's VC firms, crypto VC firms, that have been in the game from between 3 to 10 years, who are all now multi-billion-dollar funds. It's not difficult to raise money in crypto. So when you want an investor, you're not just saying, please give us some money, because that's fucking easy. If you want some money, just sell some NFTs. You can sell 10 NFTs and just put them on Cardano, because they're trying to prove there's some on-chain activity, so they buy anything. Sell a fucking snow globe on Cardano, they'll fucking buy it. You'll get $1 million. So if you want money, it's easy to come by in crypto. It's not a problem. So when you select an investor, you're trying to select more than money. You're trying to select a team of people that help you grow your project, grow your company. Like whatever it is you're building, you're trying to get people on your team who are going to have their incentives aligned with you and are going to try and add and create value with you to make the world better. Like that's the point of why people build stuff, is to provide a service or build a thing that adds value to people's lives and changes the world in a beneficial way. And that value add is like recouped in like financial value as well, but whatever.
I very, very, very strongly agree with basically everything you just said.
Yeah, it's like you're choosing investors that are going to be on your team. You're choosing like new team members for the next sort of like 5-10 years or whatever. And if you're like the team members that you select through investing in crypto, they're like dumping everything they can dump on day one. Like
it's
the
bullshit,
day one market, 2 weeks after they fucking invested, they're selling everything, 100% of their vested position, they're dumping it on day one in a single market sell. They're like trying to poach team members from the projects. Like you're the lead developer on this project, why don't you do your own token project? We'll fund you, bro. It's like, really? This would never happen. Like trying to steal people from a 5 to 10 person team is completely insane. Like they don't care about their investment whatsoever. They're just trying to flip. They're just trying to sell into the liquidity and move on to the next projects. They're not VCs. They're just I like to call them vulture capitalists. But I came up with the other
I agree.
No one's laughed at it yet, but I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah.
So Cobie, if that's happening so widespread, why aren't projects building in more protections into their initial contracts with investors?
Because the thing is, the project wants to raise money, right? So the incentives for the project is to raise money. So they want $1 to $2 to $3 million for free to build some bullshit. Like maybe it's their dream project, maybe they're just cash grabbing because they want a salary for a few years and whatever, and they know it don't matter. But they're trying to raise money. If the project's really good, then it's really easy to raise money right now. Like you can raise from anyone you want. On really insane terms. So I'm looking at some decks now of projects that are very good. They're incredibly respectable projects. They're going to be like core infrastructure in the ecosystem. And they're raising at valuations like close to $1 billion, which is completely nuts. Unheard of before this year. But if your project sucks and you want free money, you want to raise money still, you just make it so favorable to investors that it's hard to say no. It's going to be free money for investors, so of course they'll give you money because they know they can flip it in 2 months. So for the project, they get a couple million free from investors. The investors, they get a couple million free from flipping their initial investment into the liquidity. And for retail, they get fucked. Like you look at the Pokemon, the Polkadot Pokemon NFT, whatever thing, the chart literally opens and goes down forever. The entire history of the chart is it just going down. And if you move it into logarithmic, so you can like it looks like it's bottoming out because the numbers are getting small, but switch it to logarithmic and it just also all of a sudden is a straight line. It's like decreasing by the same percentage every single fucking day, and it's just gone down only. And you're like, who, if you think about, a naive person would say, who, like, how does this chart happen? Like, who's buying this, who's selling lower? People that don't understand how liquidity works, how Uniswap works, how pre-sales work, they say this chart looks nuts. Like this look like it has to go up soon, but the thing is it doesn't. Like the multiples are so, like if you think about the float and where the float comes from and the entry price from the float, they're still in a profit. Of course they'll just keep dumping into the liquidity forever. So like the projects don't put protections in because they're trying to raise money, and the projects are so bad the only way they can raise money is to make it so favorable for the pre-salers that people are going to pour money in no matter what. It's like, would you invest in something? If I told you there's something with a 500k market cap, would you want to invest?
Yes.
If you told me yes.
Yeah, of course. Like 500k market cap, of course you want to invest. It doesn't matter what it is. You're like 500k, it's definitely going to pump. So that's why you invest in it. That's how the project gets money. They don't want to put protections in because they know then you won't invest. If I say, do you want to invest in something at 500k market cap, it's got a 4-year lockup, do you still want to invest? You're like, well, I kind of want to think about it now.
Yeah, there's that balance trying to raise money versus the terms that you offer. And the thing that you're seeing that you noted, Cobie, is that the really good projects, they're able to demand really high initial valuations and really long lockups. but realistically, that's probably the way that it should go, right?
Of course, yeah, and I think you'll see a bifurcation or like a divergence in the types of projects that are raising, because legitimately good projects, they can demand whatever they want. They're like the hottest kid in school, they're the superstar athlete, or like whatever metaphor you want to use. Like whatever they say, it happens. They're Justin Bieber in 2005 or whenever he was popular. Like they say it and it happens. Like you can say it to investors, you can go to 3AC, you can go to Paradigm, you can go to like A16Z, you can go to Matty, and you can say, look, I'm raising a 600 million valuation. You're locked up for 15 years, and each of you've got to buy me a castle. And like the VC is going to go like, well, this is like a core part of the infrastructure. I need to have exposure to this. Like, fine, I'll say yes. I'll get you a castle. It's going to be in Scotland though. It's going to be shit. It's going to be grade 1 listed, and you got to repair it every week. Fuck you. But like those projects, they can do whatever they want. They can dictate whatever terms they want. The shit projects, they just make it so favorable for investors that like you're not going to say no.
Isn't one of the things...
Chat thinks I'm on cocaine. I just went to the toilet and got another cider.
He's just been coiling up with this thought, and he was going to write a blog post, that he was like, I got a video podcast. Why do I need to actually write a blog post? I can just spew it out on a video. Is one of the things that can rein this in be to not offer a token? Because if you say there's no token, if this is an equity only deal, I feel like the money clinches up a lot quicker, don't you think? Because there's even less of a promise of liquidity.
Yeah, like stuff like that, like all those things are dissuasions to investing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you just think about it from your own perspective, like if you're an investor, if you're like one of the people listening, and someone hits you up on Telegram, like someone that you trust, and they say, I've got an investment opportunity for you. And think of all the things that will make it sound good. It'll make it sound good if it's a cheap valuation. It'll make it sound good if you get liquidity quickly. You say, I'm going to invest today, and they'll generate the token tomorrow. There'll be a market for you tomorrow. That sounds good. If I say it's a $1 million market cap today, but they're doing their initial DEX offering or whatever, they're doing their IDO at $10 million market cap, that sounds good. Because that sounds like we buy at 1 million, the plebs have to buy at 10 million. That's great. And then you know that the IDOs, they go like 3x or 5x or whatever as soon as the market opens, because the IDO only has a float of $50,000 worth to manually or artificially fuck up the supply-demand equation so that the price goes up. So, like, that sounds good. If I start saying to you, right, I've got you an investment opportunity, your money is going to be locked up for 4 years, the valuation is 100 million, your vesting, like, takes fucking forever, like, all those things sound bad, and, like, you need to go, oh, is this going to be a good investment? You need to start thinking about the project more. So when the tokenomics are set up in a way where you don't have to think about the project, that's how you end up with the Pokemon. That's how you end up with these pre-sales that the DJ guy and the guy with the square head was getting like rinsed over. When things are much more legitimate, they can like command a lot more respectable terms. And that's why I think there'll be a divergence in the projects that fundraise, because you'll kind of be able to tell if something's good or not based on looking at their terms. Like if they had a like no lockup for investors, or like a 6-month lockup with a really quick token generation event, and and like several tiers of like private sale, pre-sale, IDO, public sale, whatever, you'll just be able to tell from looking at that, like they struggled to fundraise legitimately versus a project that fundraised from a bunch of like reputable institutions 3 years ago and have been like, those people have been bag holding their equity or whatever ever since.
Yeah, somebody in the
Sorry,
chat
I've been ranting for ages.
No, it's good. It's good. Somebody in the chat said we don't care about all this VC stuff, except for you do care, because these are the bags you're buying when you don't have access to the VC stuff, and you need to know where that bag came from.
People don't think about that, mate.
Yeah. Well, that's why they get dumped on.
Yeah.
Duncan, what are your thoughts? Let's get a Cobie rant reaction.
Well, no, like it definitely makes a lot of sense. And I guess like for the investments that like I've kind of made, that have like done pretty well. So like something like a Lido or like Luna. So like Luna, for instance, like they raised like around in like August. I think they raised a bunch of times at 80 cents, and then like all the VCs just dumped, and I like got in at like 40 cents. So like one of these projects where you can find that's kind of been like left for dead or forgotten. I think like that's a really unique part about crypto, because it's kind of like liquid venture. You can get in at the same price or better than VCs, or even something like a Lido with like literally every VC in crypto behind it. Like all of the big names behind it. Like that was like public information, and you could buy like, the information got released at like 60 cents. Like you had the chance to buy Lido at like 80 cents.
Disclosure,
when you know that
Crypto Cobain has a huge bag of Lido and is a co-founder of Lido.
Yeah. So like, so like when you have like Paradigm and 3AC buying at like 60 cents, and then you can get, and you're telling me I can get it at 80 cents. It's like those sort of opportunities, like they don't come by like very often, but like looking for those kind of like liquid venture opportunities, and obviously like steering clear of stuff where you're like clearly just going to get dumped on because the VCs bought like 50x below you. And it's like keeping an eye out for that. But I did have a question that was like slightly off topic, but since like Cobie's here, I wanted to ask him about ETH. And this is something I've been thinking about, but like with EIP 1559, and then also like the narrative that's developing around that, like kind of like store value narrative, I think that's like really powerful. But like something that I don't really hear people talking about is like have the best of both worlds with like EIP 1559 and also L2 scaling. But like a big part of that like deflationary pressure from EIP 1559 is because of these high fees. So like I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that, but
we mentioned it on one of the episodes. I don't remember when it was, but like it is true that the two massively bullish narratives for ETH, well, there's sort of three, right? There's like EIP 1559, that's a good thing. Layer 2, that's a good thing. And ETH2 and like the move from miners to validators and staking, that's a good thing. And independently, they all sound very good. And you can say, wow, there's these three bullish narratives. But it is also true that EIP 1559 and layer 2 scaling are sort of adversarial, like in that they're directly opposed, where if everything moves onto layer 2 and ETH fees get low, I mean, they're already low now, like gas fees have gone to zero basically. But if that remains permanent, then EIP 1559 is less impactful as a deflationary mechanic over time. So I think that is true, and all of the calculations for EIP 1559 are all like the absolute peak bull.
Yeah,
like, this is the worst fees have ever been, and if it stayed like this for the entire year, then that would mean like 100 billion would be burned every 7 seconds or something. So I think a lot of the projections have been, worst case scenario for ETH fees and best case scenario for EIP 1559. But I think that it will be worse than that. Like, there's no chance that you get those things. Like, gas is already lower. Like, none of the serious L2 solutions are already online, really. Like, Arbitrum's launched, but it isn't like, no one's using it really. Like, I don't even think Curve's launched on it yet. I just saw someone in chat said, can we get through a Cobie stream without him talking about Ethereum? Like, bro, you've tuned into a crypto stream. Like, what did you expect? Like, if you've come to Up Only TV, which is a cryptocurrency show, and Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, mate. Like, if you're like, I'll do a different podcast for you about whatever your interests are. Just hit me up.
So do you think that, like, because I guess I've heard a lot of people saying, so like if we scale, like it's kind of like the BSC argument, right? Like if we can get fees down, then we'll get like way more usage. So does like that end up balancing out somewhere? I just like haven't really seen anything like good research on like, okay, if we can successfully scale, like I don't think we can have the best of both worlds where like you have this insane fee burn and also scaling at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think that the fee burn is going to be insane. I think it'll be moderate compared to what it is. I think there'll be days where it's insane. I think, like the gas fees at the peak of DeFi summer were way larger than anything we saw this year. The DeFi summer 2020 were way larger than anything we saw this year. So I think you'll have peaks of it where, use cases that were previously not possible will become possible. So fees will adjust upwards on layer 2. It won't just be the same economic activity translated directly onto L2. So there might be more usage, which will drive fees higher on L2 than they would have been if it was the same economic activity. But I don't think you'll ever have the DeFi summer levels again, or even the peaks of this year levels again. But it is likely that sometimes you'll have other large peaks. But yeah, it's not going to be as large as the previous historic peaks are. So I don't think it's going to be as aggressive as that. But at the same time, it is impossible to deny that all of these three things are happening at the same time, and like there is going to be a convergence from them. I think the most important factor, like while those two things are adversarial and people don't talk about that, I also think people don't talk about the dynamic change of revenue to miners versus revenue to validators, where revenue to miners is them selling their costs plus tax, plus whatever, and maybe they dump like 90% of their income on market. Whereas validators, if you do the same calculation, maybe they dump 50 to 55% on market. And that change with ETH2, I think is much more important. But I recognize at this point, no one believes ETH2 is ever going to happen, and it's become a meme. Like, I think we might see ETH3 before we see ETH2. Like, they might just skip ETH2 at this point.
Yeah, but like that's a big thing, because it's like the more like ETH you have to stake, it's like the more you get. So it's like literally like forging the diamond hand holders. It's like the more you have, the more we're giving you. Like I think that is something that's like not really talked about. Like that leakage out of the system like goes down a lot once you're essentially just rewarding the people who keep on holding.
Flood, have you seen that people on Twitter are saying that you're a mixture of Shawn Mendes and the Bogandov twins?
No, I've not been on Twitter yet.
Sorry, I just needed to ask you a question again because I feel like I was being questioned too much. This is my podcast. I'm supposed to ask the questions. Or Ledger is, and I'm supposed to sit here and laugh.
Enough, baby. So, Jack, how are you going to approach profit taking this cycle?
I'm going to do it this cycle, which is different than previous cycles. Yeah, I think because of the quality of projects and the level of potential adoption that Ethereum and crypto in general is coming up on, I'm going to be slower. I have a longer term viewpoint. That said, I'm not going to write this down to the bottom either, like I did in 2018. I actually sold the top of 2018 beautifully, and then I rebought all in like
2 weeks.
20%. Yeah, like 20% lower, and then I wrote that to the bottom.
Is there a chance that we're doing that right this moment?
No, there is not a chance. This bull market is not over. Up only. This is the way.
You think the bull market's not over?
Hell no. No. Man, I bought...
Listening to me when I was talking? Super cycle, guys. Come on. I need to talk to Sue on here.
So you wait. But do you think maybe we need to do a round table?
Ethereum to 10K, man. It hasn't hit 10K yet, and so it's not over. It can't be over. It's
going to 10K. It's going to 10K at some point. I get that, but you mean like this year, in the next 3 months, in the next 1 year, in the next 3 years?
Well, I told my wife I'm retiring this year, so it needs to happen before the end of the year. So that's what's happening.
All right, before the end of the year. All right, Matty, do you agree?
He's busy reading chat again.
Is this contemplation or muted? I think he's muted. I thought it was just
excuse me. How's this? Okay. It was not contemplation. I was muted. Can you hear me now? So I was just saying that I think we're still in what I would describe as a bullish environment. And so for me, it's a little bit more about segmentation, though. So have we seen the high for Bitcoin this year? Maybe, could be. But for example, if you start looking at DeFi, I'm still enormously bullish on DeFi. In the short term, who knows, anything can fucking happen, but will DeFi be 10x what it is now at an absolute minimum 2 to 3 years from now, yeah, I'm pretty fucking confident that it will be. So to me, it's a little bit more about segmentation.
Duncan?
Yeah, like honestly, obviously I think everyone here is long-term bullish, but no, I do believe that this is like just a mid-cycle correction. Like I said, like whether you agree with me or not, like I think that the macro environment, just like you can't even deny the stimulus coming out of the US, like that is really, really bullish. And the narratives that are being built around Bitcoin and Ethereum, like among institutions and stuff, and like seeing these players get in, it's kind of like the game theory that we like all talked about in the bear market. It's like once one bank has to like buys, then all the other banks have to buy. I think like we're seeing that playing out in real time, and it just isn't maybe as quick as people think, because like there's a lot of diligence that goes in. Like if a bank wanted to buy, or like one of these like big pension funds, it'd be like 6 to 9 months just to like even get in. So I think that that's still to come, and I'm still like very bullish this cycle. And obviously like DeFi finding like a real product market fit is something that we haven't seen before, and I think it is a real game changer for institutions, and especially like TradFi guys coming in. Like these are something that they can actually model. Like they have cash flows, they understand how to value it. It's not something like Bitcoin where it's like so esoteric, like how do you value this, versus like, oh, okay, like they have cash flows, they have this many users. Like there's things that they can bring over from like models that they've previously done or like previously learning that apply to crypto. And like a lot of the time, especially early on, like a lot of these projects were trading at like really compelling multiples considering like their growth and the fee generation. So I'm definitely still a bull. It's just we'll have to see what happens this cycle.
Get another one of those polls, whoever created a poll. Oh, they've already done it. I was about to say, can we get a poll for is the bull cycle over? And there's one there already.
Shout out Luke.
Shout out Luke. Oh God, everyone says no. I don't like that. I don't like the wisdom of the crowd. Can people vote yes, please, so that I feel better? Everyone just vote yes. If it's more weighted to yes, I feel good.
Cobie, I think the in between, and I wonder if you and I agree on this, is the high end for ETH and BTC for the year, even if we are not going to go into a full bear. Like, are we just going to consolidate with no new high for the rest of the year?
My opinion is nuance is like a probabilistic approach where you take the most likely scenarios, you give them some kind of weighting, and you trade on that. And I think the likelihood that the bull market's over and the likelihood that you get a 2013 style double bubble where you consolidate for the next few months and you start going up again in October are basically even. But there's a third scenario, which is like the up-only scenario, the Suzu super cycle scenario, where this dip was a normal 30% retrace that ended up in a liquidation cascade because of the new prominence of leverage in the system, and therefore you can just treat it like a 30% dip. And like on Bitcoin, it sort of looks like a previous cycle's regular correction as well. So there's like this up-only thesis where it actually just completely recovers this and keeps going up like in the next month or so, which I think has a much lower probability, but is possible. And if you take those three, there's a couple of other scenarios that are possible, but like those are the top three. So if you take those three, the top two result in consolidation for a few months anyway, and a similar looking structure. So it's that I feel like that's most likely to play out.
Alt season.
Maybe alt season, yeah. Although you could also argue that the alt season has just happened, and it ended 1 month after Bitcoin topped, which was very similar to 2017 and 2013, if I remember correctly. But there's a chance I don't because I'm drunk. I think if you look at those scenarios, you like. The probability suggests that you consolidate for a bunch of time. In January, I was very bullish / hopium on the 2013 double bubble narrative, mostly because we went up only since COVID happened, since the COVID crash. If you look at a chart, since the COVID March crash, the chart has really just gone up ever since, just like straight up. It's like a vertical line upwards, basically, with not really too much pullback, just increasing like parabola. So the unsustainability of that curve and that market action suggested to me, like December, January, that we might end up with more of a double bubble 2013 scenario. But at the same time, there are so many factors now that are brand new. Like, we didn't exist in the macro environment that we exist in now way back when. We didn't have DeFi where stuff had product market fit and had like revenue flows way back when. So it is it does remain possible that the Suzu super cycle is a possibility. And just if you look at anything apart from Bitcoin, the charts look much less sustainable, I think.
Yeah, if you look at things in linear, it gets very scary, to be honest. So I think I agree with your majority case there, Cobie, that I actually think we probably will make, or the high probability chance is that we make a new high this year, particularly on ETH. And I think that what we just entered is a lot like $400 was in 2017. And we just need a really long time of consolidation, higher lows.
You are kind of saying, though, we just need to cool off before the next rally. Yeah. Which is on the Wall Street cheat sheet.
Yeah, of complacency.
Right before it goes to zero, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a chance that the catalysts for ETH could sort of save the market and prop it up a little bit. And like maybe there's some catalysts for Bitcoin that I haven't really considered as I haven't weighted with high enough probability yet. But like if ETH can prop things up with the like EIP 1559 later in the year, ETH2, layer 2 scaling coming online, the decoupling of DeFi from the rest of stuff, then maybe there's a chance. But like, yeah, I also wait like massive consolidation. Just fuck people up, fuck up all the margin traders, liquidate Gainsey like 12 times.
So I think one of the scariest things, I know you don't give a crap about moving averages, but the 20-week moving average is actually pretty good in terms of determining when a cycle's over, and it says it's over for Bitcoin. Which is
don't you think it's weird how the moving average is always like around the price just bit afterwards?
Yeah, I know that's why you don't like it, but in 2017, even with this degree of cycle that was, we bounced off the 20 every time, whereas we broke right through it on Bitcoin this time. But weird enough, we didn't do so on ETH. ETH bounced right off of it, and I think that if nothing else, that hints to me that Ethereum is still strong relative to Bitcoin, and the ETH BTC chart does not look like one that screams cycle over to me. So I'm just going to stack ETH and hope that we don't die.
Yeah. This chart is the hopium that I think people need. Like this chart is the macro hopium for me, where if it was 2017, this chart would look a lot worse now. Like in really tragic markets, ETH goes to zero and Bitcoin like has a bit of resilience. And in bull markets, ETH outperforms Bitcoin. And this chart still looks
constructive,
like pretty good. Like maybe it like complacency's here and tops out, but that looks pretty good to me. And if you end up with like, ETH BTC at 0.2, it seems like it's most possible. ETH BTC 0.2 seems like it's most possible at something like 50k, 10k. I guess 25k, 5k is possible too, but I would like much prefer 50k, 10k.
Do you know how triggered Bitcoiners would be by 50k, 10k?
I think they'd be more triggered by 25k, 5k.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But like something like that.
I don't even care about 25k, 5k sounds great. I didn't even think about that as being 0.2.
A lot of the time I try and think about like the narrative that would upset the most people, because most of the time I think these markets just try and upset people, right? Like the Dogecoin narrative is just the narrative that will upset the most amount of people in crypto. Like Dogecoin has a really, really, really low penetration of holders within the crypto community. It's like the crypto that crypto community owns the least. So it's upset only. That is the narrative. And the narrative that would upset the most people is a huge ETH BTC bull market, followed by ETH going to zero and Bitcoin outperforming again on the downside, which I think would be hilarious. Like everyone gets the flippening and then it just goes straight back to zero and Bitcoin does better. That's hilarious. That upsets everyone. I like that.
The Doge BTC forever chart in linear is like, no, actually this is in log. Good God. It's the same thing, linear log. It's like one of the most ridiculous charts I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's just like, that's just upsetting to everyone, except if you held Doge for some reason.
Unless you're BitLord and you were on our very first episode and told all our audience to go all in Doge, and then it went 100x.
Yeah. I think that a reason this cycle is like, just like, if you think about the market participants, and I guess like Sue has said this a lot, but it's like, can Bitcoin like really survive like another 80% pullback like after like this sort of money that's in there? Like, are they gonna ever trust it again? But I think like the other side of that coin is now that these like institutional market participants and people with like a lot of money are getting involved in crypto, and it's like the asset class itself has like become legitimized as it's like been in the mainstream news. Like more people are talking about it like a macro instrument. Like that opens like the realm of possibilities as like if there is inflation or if people are looking to allocate new capital, like Bitcoin and digital assets are now a conversation. And when you like, I guess like put crypto like in scale to everything else, all these other financial assets, like it's literally like what I was saying before, it's a water bottle and the rest of financial assets are like a pool. And so you can try and fit like any amount into that water bottle. Like you can get some serious growth here. I'm not saying like up only like forever, but it's just like these weren't even conversations 1 year ago. And like, so I think that that's why on a fundamental view, it's like very different than the other cycles.
Isn't the pool in the water bottle thing though, like that happened with Doge? Like that was what Doge did. Bitcoin hasn't really shown that yet. Matty, what's on your mind over here? Are you just mad at us for?
No, I just I think moving average indicators and all these technical indicators are basically nonsense. So I'm tuning out. And I was talking on Twitter.
Yeah, let's go. I completely agree. Let's fucking go.
And so actually I was tweeting, which is true. I was tweeting. Look, I confess, this is the first time I've listened to Up Only. But here's the thing. I was tweeting.
Kick him out. Get rid of him.
I know. But hold on. Let me finish though. I was tweeting that I thought, I think you're like much fucking smarter than people may be realizing, is what I was just tweeting. And then I was saying, and then I said, serious question, is Up Only like pump only for smart people? Is the other thing I was tweeting. But I don't know. I don't know if you'll like that or not.
Don't ruin that good name of 100 IQ.
I like that you complimented us both, and Ledger was like, "Who was that? Me or Cobie? Which who specifically was that compliment for?" It was like, "Bro, just take it. It's for us both."
I don't want to ruin my good name. I'm right in the middle of the curve. Just keep me average. It's fine.
No worries, Ledger. He specifically said Cobie is much smarter.
I did specifically say Cobie, Ledger.
I'm checking it out. I'm looking now. This is obvious. Like, this is how it happens. It's no surprise.
Wait, did he actually tweet Cobie is much smarter?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
Look, I just call look, Ledger. I'll buy you a drink. I'll get you drunk.
Nope. It's
over. I'll buy you some lap dances to get back in your good graces. I call
never again.
I know.
He doesn't date people in that way. Have you not seen the copy pasta yet? Like Ledger's.
Oh, I have seen the copy pasta. Was that from Ledger about the dating about what was it, strippers or some shit?
No. I don't know what that was, but it wasn't me.
Did you say copy pasta, right?
Yeah.
What was the copy pasta going around this week about what to not do in Miami about picking up girls? There was a copy pasta.
That was originally by Ledger's wife.
Anyway.
Here's the actual tweet. Cobie is much smarter than you think. Came away quite impressed. There you go.
What do you mean came away? It's not over. We've got 3 hours left to go.
He's saying he's done.
And then I said, serious question, is Cobie's and Cobie and Ledger is up only.
Oh,
Is
wait.
that like
1 minute.
Is that like pump?
No.
Huh?
Is that like pump? I get it, but hold on.
Is that
1
no?
minute.
You gotta let me finish. Is that like pump only for smart people?
Yeah, except for in the middle of these two tweets, right in the middle of this compliment bread, this is a tweet, so I don't interrupt people on up only again. Stop talking about moving averages. It's a garbage indicator.
It is. It's a garbage indicator. I didn't want to trash Flood again. He seems like a very nice.
Well, that was me. That was
young
me.
man.
So don't worry.
Oh, okay.
You were distracted.
I hate
tweeting Cobie compliments. It's fine. It's fine, Matty. It's fine.
I have very extreme. I'll be honest with you. I have very extreme ADHD. So I have to be doing like three things at all times. So, for example, I've been masturbating this whole show, and while tweeting.
All right.
Oh god, I had a full mouthful while you said that. I almost.
I thought you'd like. It's a casual environment. I thought you'd think that was funny. Was that not funny?
I mean, it was funny. I just had a full mouthful of cider, and it almost went all over my lights and my beautiful setup.
Well, that's I was trying. I'm trying to get in your head like that. You know.
Can someone clip that, please, so we can tweet it on the
don't worry,
account?
I'm pretty sure it'll be clipped.
Yeah, we can use that. We can use that to promote the show later. He's just trying to tell everyone it's for smart people. We can prove that it's not.
Yeah, go for it. I support.
My father watches this show because my dad helps us out with like booking.
I'm sorry,
the guests.
Mr. Cobie.
Yeah, he's like watches the show. He doesn't know anything about crypto. He's got like $10 worth of Zcash or something because he follows Path. But he's watching this. He must be going, "What the fuck is going on?" I like when I'm in these shows and we reach these moments of like hilarity. I'm always like, I wonder what my dad thinks is happening right now.
If he didn't abandon us after the BSC episode, then we've got him. He'll be all right.
That's okay. My mom has no idea. I think my mom thinks I'm a stockbroker. She has no idea. She's never known. No idea what I do.
Yeah.
Literally none.
I have to cherry pick episodes that I send to people. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd do this podcast. Go listen to this one. Definitely not the most recent one.
Yeah, you send all your friends a Mark Cuban episode. Like, look, I interviewed Mark Cuban.
Yeah, please don't look at our latest episode where we interviewed the CEO of Scam.
I think the CEO of Scam's actually a philosopher that will be remembered long after he's dead. But
yeah,
look,
he was good.
Look, that's the way it goes. Look, we've been streaming for 2 hours. Ledger, should we do the final questions?
Yes.
All right. So every single episode, we ask all our guests this question to finish the show. And I think the chat is ready for it. Matty, they need to know it, especially from you. But we ask them, what is some alpha that they can learn from? What is something they can take away? Maybe it's a teaching that's been passed down your family line. Maybe it's something you learned in school from like that one teacher you had in school that was really good and all the others like fucking sucked, but you had like that one teacher who like kind of understood you and like helped you like realize stuff about the world. Maybe it's something that you read in a book. Maybe you were reading some Herman Hesse and you were like, yeah, I get it. That's what I need to apply to the rest of my life. Just one mantra, one piece of advice that's going to make them happier, healthier, more fulfilled, more accepting of themselves, maybe more wealthy. Who knows? Who cares? Just something. A piece of alpha. Now, we need a volunteer to go first because I feel like this is putting everyone on the spot a little bit. So if anyone's got something that immediately comes to mind, feel free to volunteer. But I'm just going to keep talking for a moment longer to give you an extra time to think. And I hope that chat doesn't realize what I'm doing.
Just go like this. Just go like this.
I got one, Cobie.
Thank you.
All right. Mine is, and this is, I've held to this through my like 7 years in crypto, is I don't burn bridges needlessly. Like, just because someone screwed me over or I'm pissed at them through something that happened in crypto, there's no reason to lash out and burn that bridge unless it's going to profit me. Because down the road, maybe having that relationship still intact will come back and benefit me. And it has in the past. I've been in situations where I and all the investors of a project were super pissed at a certain individual who screwed over the project. But I was the one individual who did not burn that bridge and didn't go, jump in his DMs and trash him. And I was able to use that relationship in the future. It proved beneficial. So yeah, don't burn bridges for no reason.
I maybe need to use this advice. Like, I have not got any bridges in my life. I've just got loads of fires everywhere. For entire life. I'm like a complete arsonist. So maybe I should take your advice.
Young Bogdanov, what do you got?
Young Bog is a fucking sick crypto rapper name. Young Bog.
Yeah, well, I guess like this one is like thrown around a lot, but I still think it's infinitely important. Just like the ability to be patient and like a long-term thinker. Like, it's so easy to get distracted, especially today. Like, there's so much shit to get distracted. And this is like any aspect of your life, right? Just like social media, like all this stuff. It's so easy to get distracted. And like, how much, like, think to yourself, how much time a day do you actually spend like thinking original thoughts? And I think like long-term thinking, and like that's a big reason I like crypto, because I do think that this is going to be massive in 10, 20, 30 years. And so like long-term thinking, and then also like even applying that to, because I know this show is called Up Only, so like financial alpha, right? Like Warren Buffett had like $1 million when he was 35, and he grew that at like 20% a year till he was like 90, and now he's worth like $90 billion. It's not like he was doing like 100x's every year. Like you put that in crypto terms, it's like, holy shit, like I could get there. Like 20% doesn't seem anything like out of the ordinary, right? So I'm just keeping in perspective that like long-term thinking, not only in investments, but like in every aspect of your life.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Matty, if you're not terribly distracted at the moment.
So mine is, stop saying you don't need sleep. You need fucking sleep. So for 90% of us, you need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. People like to talk about how, they're cranking away on 6 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours sleep for weeks at a time. That is not what you want to be doing, because your mental capacity is gonna be just wrecked, and you're gonna be destroying your body. So stop fucking saying you don't need sleep. You need sleep. Get your sleep. That's mine.
I need to take the alpha from everyone. Like maybe from Young Bog I'm good. Maybe from Young Bog I'm good. I'm good for the long term. I think about it in the long term. Like that's easy. But I haven't been asleep since 2020, dude. Like I'm awake. I'm awake, and every day I'm burning bridges. My mental capacity is at all-time lows.
That's okay.
Ledger, any parting thoughts?
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Young Bog, please change your Twitter handle appropriately. It's been a wonderful pleasure having each of you, and most of all, thank you so much to our friends at Blockfolio. We'll see our friends from Blockfolio in Miami tomorrow. Go to uponly.tv/Blockfolio. If you want to make a trade in Miami, you can do it on mobile, because you can trade on Blockfolio from anywhere. You can also track your portfolio as Ethereum and Bitcoin try to recover. I hope it goes well for you. Have a great day. Make a great trade. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.